It's USPTA/RSPTA Master Professional Stan Oley. I wanted to film this video for a reason that, we traveled the country now for 34 years doing all kinds of clinics, whether it be a 4-hour specialty course, whether it be a 1-hour seminar, and especially the club clinics where I would have, a dozen members, maybe 3 or 4 times as much in the audience, but they were more member oriented, and we called them our tennis IQ clinics. Today I want to kind of make a very drilled down video of what that 4-hour course or what that 1.5-hour course looked like. Because as I travel, we had amazing results. People would get so much better in these 1-hour clinics, and they'd say, wow, I learned more today than I've learned in 20 years. Or, pros would come up to me and say, Mary or Joe wanted to take lessons now, and they've never taken a lesson in their life at our club. So we've had amazing success. But it was interesting, though, when we finished the clinics, the pros would say, you have a unique style of teaching, because, I would teach with maybe video when I was back here at home, or especially I had the ball machine with me. That was my baby the whole way on the road. But it wasn't really a style. And when I had when I had that conversation, I said, well, it's an opinion. And I'm like, well, it's not really an opinion. So in 34 years, I've studied how people learn. And I think that's really important, because I basically was a really good player who became a teaching pro. And I think that's kind of the progression that our industry takes, is somewhere along the line you were a really good player, and then all of a sudden, you wanted to start teaching because tennis was your passion, but nobody really taught us how somebody learns. So today I want to take that 4-hour specialty course and some of the tennis IQ clinics I did with the members and kind of drill it down to a short video to kind of pique your interest of we can make people better really fast. We just have to use technology, and we have to know how people learn. First off, there's 2 kinds of motor skill sports. There's closed skills, and there's open skill sports. Closed skills are more of a less cognitive, less decision-making sport. Let's say diving, bowling, darts. Diving, you're trying to perfect the routine, and the pool doesn't move, and there's nobody trying to tackle you while you're diving. So those are considered closed skill sports. You're really trying to perfect the technique. And then as we go further, there's open skill sports, which are more decision-based or more adaptive-based. You're really adapting to the environment that you're given in a certain play or in a certain point of a tennis match. Let's take football, for example, to get away from tennis for a second, and maybe this will make a little bit more sense when we transition to tennis. I'm a coach, and I put my quarterback and my receiver on the sideline. I just tell them to play pitch and catch, and they get to be amazing at pitching and catching. But then I put them in a game, they snap the ball, snap's not so good. Now I got 350-pound linemen chasing me around if I'm the quarterback. The receiver's covered. What do? None of this was ever explained to me. None of this was ever shown to me. There was, basically I was taught in a closed skill where we're just pitching and catching, trying to perfect the technique. And now we jump to open skill where it's basically chaos, because I was never learned to problem solve, decision make, anything based on this sport. So, you look at a football team, for example, if they're getting ready to play in a wet ball game, they will have their balls, the footballs soaked in water, and then the quarterback's snapping them, the center is snapping them to the quarterback. They're preparing themselves for that virtual environment, just like the game is going to happen, or what's going to happen in that game. They will have a breakdown maybe in the offensive line, and then what happens. And the quarterback's decision-making process is their secret sauce. How fast can they see what's happening with that defense? They might have 3 or 4 progressions they have to read through, and they might have to, all of a sudden, because something happened, dump a screen off to an outlet receiver. Maybe the play was something long, but I throw a missile to the receiver right across the middle because I saw they were open split second. Or maybe I do go for that long receiver because they are open and I saw it in my progression. But you see, this is all based on decision making. The throwing and catching is super important, but you have to teach it in a way that is open skilled so these players learn to adapt for any environment. We have to prepare them for anything. And if they're not, prepared for anything, that slight weakness will take them down. Some pro players have always said, you're only as good as your worst shot. Well, that's the same here. So when we get to tennis, how is tennis taught? Well, tennis is taught from pros who usually were taught based on how they were taught. You know, we didn't go to school to learn how people learn, most of us. Some maybe, but the majority, played successfully. Then they got into teaching, and then they started teaching how they were taught. And so knowing this, you see a lot of hand feeding from the net. I would say 90%, unless the pro is playing the student, 90% of the lessons are fed from the net, right? Or you see this, all of a sudden, this soft tossing thing going on, just a way overdoing that. And so what does that look like when it comes to the open skill decision making? Well, I feed Joanne or Joe from the net, and their technique looks really good, and I tell them low to high. I talk about unit turns and footwork and all that stuff, and they feel really good about themselves, just like that receiver and quarterback in the football game. But now they're going to get thrown into a match. Now they get a couple rally balls like the lesson, but they get balls with shape. They get short balls that are below the net. They get short balls that are above the net. They get easy volleys. They get hard volleys. They get lobs that are short, lobs that are deep. You see, if they're not taught in that same environment that the match, then when they get to the decision making, it's all going to break down. So let's talk about how that works with the brain. And this was like really cool to me because I've been doing this for like 34 years. And I think it was in 1993, I was giving a lesson to a gentleman who was actually teaching pilots how to fly. And it was validating because what I'm about to show you here with the motor skill learning module, he said, you're spot on. This is exactly how we teach pilots how to fly. In fact, they had an acronym called SOAR, and I'll show you ours here in a second. But then I'm on a plane. I remember flying to Houston one night, and I'm on the plane with an Army Ranger, and they validated it the same way. Yes, this is exactly this motor skill learning module. I mean, we got to make decisions like this, or actually in their world, people die. And so it's not about winning and losing a match at that point. And so, but everywhere I went, I was in San Antonio one afternoon, and I had a driver's ed teacher. She validated and said, yes, we have an acronym too, and this is how people learn. Yes, you have to have your steering wheel at 10 and 2 or 9 and 3 or wherever they're at these days, but it's based on decision making. There's somebody crossing the walk and the light's yellow. What are you going to do? It's all decision based, more so than technique of how you're holding the steering wheel. So let's get into that. Your brain goes through a 4-step process. It goes identify, decide, execute, feedback. Identify, decide, execute, feedback. Identify is, well, what am I getting? All of a sudden, I was taught, low to high, fed from the net. Everything felt really good, or I was doing all these soft tossings like this, and everything was going good. I was told I was doing great, but then I get into this match, and all of a sudden, the player constantly puts these balls with shape on it. And what do I do? When I get to identify, decide, identify, well, yeah, this ball is much higher than I got in my lesson. Decide, what do I do? When you get to decide, there's got to be like a library of shots. Oh, a ball with shape. Well, if I'm a 3-5 or a 3-0, I have to go back and probably play that ball in the descent. So I have to back up significantly. Why am I backing up? Here's a little tip that was crazy to me when we were on the road. From 2016 to 2018, we did this. We fed rally balls to start the Tennis IQ Clinic, and then we started feeding balls with shape. And everybody was playing balls way out of their strike zone. Oh, I've got tennis elbow too. You see a bunch of arm braces on people, and they'd be doing a lot of this stuff, right? And we realized that they were never getting the ball in their strike zone. Well, of course, when they get identify, decide, and they've only gotten this or they gotten this, they're probably never going to get the ball in their strike zone. The shocking part of that was they didn't know what strike zone was. So we'd say, well, geez, you're an Eastern or continental forehand. Your contact zone for your rally ball needs to be between your knee and your waist. Semi-Western, Western, it's got to be more up in here. And all of a sudden, now we can have a really intelligent conversation if they miss a ball. Well, we're not going to talk about how you did all this nonsense. We just want to talk about you didn't get the ball in your strike zone. All the other stuff, it's irrelevant, because once we get the ball in our strike zone, that'll probably all go away. but I'm not going to micromanage all this nonsense. Oh, your unit turn, oh, your feet, oh, your shoulders. I'm not going to talk about all that nonsense if you can't even get the ball in your strike zone. So there we go again. We're going identify, decide. So we get that ball with shape. Then we'd feed a short ball above the net like a high approach. We'd say, well, geez, that's an upper level strike zone ball because the first bounce was above the net. You should be hitting with a higher backswing, horizontal finish coming across here. Your grip pressure is going to be less. You're going to give more space because you're hitting with power. And wow, they didn't know any of that. So we realized that tennis IQ clinic was really what it was. There was a real big lack of tennis IQ in these players simply because the identify, decide, when we get over to here, they didn't know all these other shots. So basically standing at the net or just feeding them this or soft tossing, or they were really just learning one shot, low to high rally ball. And they thought if they learned that and they're successful at that and they look good doing that, they were going to be crazy successful in the court. Well, guess the news. They're going to get balls with shape. They're going to get balls below the net, above the net. They might have to play balls out of the air. There's going to be all kinds of different shots. So really, it'd be like a golfer going out on the golf course and taking their driver and being 450 yards out. They smack a drive. Well, now they're 150 yards out. Oh, I'm going to get my driver out and smack it again. Oh, I'm just short of the green. I'm going to get my driver out. You see how silly that sounds? Tennis is actually taught on that realm of you're going to play every shot the same, and that's just not the case. So when we're out there and we do these tennis IQ clinics, we go, wow, identify, decide is really important because that ball was shaped. Like I said, a 3-5, 3-0, they're going to back up and play it on the descent. Maybe a high 3-5, 4-0 may come up and play that ball in the rise. Again, it's a totally different shot. It's the upper level strike zone, horizontal finish, less grip pressure, more space, all that stuff. Or they may play it out of the air. If they've hurt the player tactically, they may play that ball out of the air, which then if the player was way off the court, I may just stick a hard blocking volley and put the ball away. If they're coming back into the court, I might have to go upper level strike zone and put a little topspin on it. If they're closing in close back because they're really quick and I got to really, put the ball away quickly, then I go horizontal finish just like I did to set up the shot, right? And so all of and that's just on a ball with shape. Then we got inside out forehands, which is more of a different plane as well, because that's going to be in between the low to high. And then when I return the ball off of a ball with shape, they didn't understand that either. So when I would feed them a moon ball, right, they would run back and try to hit a rally ball back and hit a very short ball back. So then they had to learn that, oh, I get a moon ball with shape, I got to probably give a ball with shape back, because otherwise, if I don't give a ball with shape back, it's going to be a really short ball. So it's really about that receiving, and we spend so much time on the sending, but the receiving part's hard, right? Because you got to stand out there and feed for like 8 hours a day, all these variations of shots. Well, that's my buddy. When I would get on a flight back from Denver, I would spend 3 or 4 days in Denver doing tennis IQ clinics, seminars, specialty courses. I would look at my phone on my app and I would see that I threw like 15,000 balls. And they were pretty much all the right balls for those people's identified, decide. And I didn't hit, I hit a few balls demonstrating. If I was dinged up, I would demonstrate without the ball. I mean, I could do that at any time because it's all up here. This is what I'm about. I'm 60 years old. I'm not going to go out and try to tune up my 18-year-old high performance player, but I can actually go out there and provide them with the right information, the right details, the right balls if I go through this motor learning module. So I go identify, decide, and then once you decide, then you execute the shot. Then your brain produces feedback. The feedback is going to be, well, what happened? Was it good? Was it bad? And so that's where you're going to make adjustments. But the problem with this is when they go here to here, identify, decide in our clinics, what we would find was the members would come up and always say, wow, I'm really sorry, I played really poorly today. I'm usually much better than this. Oh, I really stunk it up today. Why is that? Because they never had to do this. They never had to decide on anything. It's all been fed to them perfectly. Even in a playing lesson, they're cutting cutters and all kinds of shots that just feed right into that player's strike zone to make them feel good. But in reality, the problem is it's not about making them feel good, it's about making them better. And as we went around the country, everyone wanted to get better. Out of the 856 people we saw, not one of them knew what strike zone was for their preferred grip, and not one of them that played in a league, that played any kind of competition, said that they didn't want to be better. They all wanted to be better. You know, there are social players that just want to come out and have fun, but the players, the core players, the one that really generate the revenue of the clubs, they're the ones that make this industry thrive. They're the ones that want to get better. So just remember, identify, decide, execute. When you go out there, the identify, decide, basically, it creates the ball recognition simply of what am I getting and what do I have to do to get the ball in the strike zone for the preferred shot I'm going to hit. And the problem was at decide, they get all bottled up in our clinics. And I'd say, well, through repetition, that'll go away, because through repetition, that'll become instinctive. Just like pilots, they sit in their virtual simulators and they might have wind shear. And if they're kind of a newbie pilot, they're kind of slow to react. And then as they progress, and once they get to the expert level of the decision making, it's like they're not even thinking. Their hands are moving. Oh, there's wind shear, blah, 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 blah. Oh, there's an engine out, blah, blah, blah. And so that's how this player will eventually get if they're trained properly. And so we want that to go identify, decide, and they're not going to go, oh, it's a moon ball, so I need to back up. I need to increase my path through the ball. I give a moon ball back. I need to go lower level strike zone because I'm an Eastern. That's not how they're going to be going, right? They're going to go moon ball, boom. That's how you want them. But if they're always getting this easy ball in the lesson or just a crazy amount of toss balls, yeah, I toss balls. I'm a tosser sometimes, but it's only to get through something that somebody is really struggling with, and I take them to this closed skill situation, but then I immediately open it up. And what I see hours and hours and hours spent here in the closed skill. And so then I go out to a course where I had pros, and the pros would say, well, my members aren't good enough for that. Well, that's super tricky, because if Mary Helen or Joe can drive to the club with a stick shift, eating their breakfast sandwich, drinking a cup of coffee, I'm pretty sure they can back up for a moon ball. So people are super talented, and we don't give them credit for that enough, that when you're out here on the tennis court, they can do things that are pretty cool, but they just have to have this right information. And getting better is going to keep people in the game. And right now we have a big retention problem. We get people into the game through all kinds of marketing assets, but we can't keep people in the game. There's a steady stream of a leaky bucket leaving the game. And so retaining players is going to be making players better. And so when you get a ball, let's just say that moon ball again, I use that ball recognition, but I'm also, where's the player? Pattern recognition, especially in doubles and in singles. Where's the player? And also, what's the score? You're like, whoa, it blows people away. I have to make a decision on what I'm going to do, based on what I'm getting, and it's based on where are they and what the score is. Yeah, of course. I mean, I'm not going to try some crazy ball on the rise and take a big risk if I'm down 540 serving and I'm already down a break. But if I'm up 40 love and I'm serving and I'm up a break, yeah, I'm going to try something like that. So this part right here blows people away at first, but it's all about just practicing it. And then there's the relational part of it, because when I'm teaching with the ball machine, I'm right beside the student, and that serves so many different things. I went to a Vic Braden course a long time ago, and he said it takes 15 times longer to verbalize something as opposed to just showing it. And I had somebody challenge me on that one time. They said, no, my kid's an auditory learner. And I'm like, that's not how it works. It's a motor skill sport. This isn't sitting in the classroom, memorizing it. This is a motor skill sport. You learn visually first, kinesthetic second, and then you can take an auditory cue once you actually got the feel for what you're doing. So they challenged me. So I said, here we go. I want you to sit right there and, I'm on the phone, and tell me how to do a jumping jack. And they get out of their chair right away and they start to do it. And I'm like, no, I'm on the phone. You're trying to show me again. Just tell me how to do a jumping jack. And they're like, enough said, well played. And so you learn first visually. So that demonstration aspect's amazingly important to the player. Then kinesthetics play a huge part of how's it feel? Does it feel right? Yes, I got it. And then I can take an auditory cue of whatever it may be that might be deficient. I can mention something and they go, yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Until they feel it, that you can give them all the auditory cues in the world. But some pros think that they're great orators, and so they just spend all that time out there talking. And in the group lessons or private, I go to indoor clubs, and there's like just a lot of talking out there. But when the pro really wants to say something, they're like, come on up here. And then they have this powwow at the net. problem with that is it goes back to that relationship again. The members kind of slump over like they're doing the walk of shame up to the net. The sad part about that is there's 3 ball machines behind the curtain. So there's a lot of times in this situation where I'm like, yeah, somebody says, I don't have $7,000 or $8,000 to spend on a ball machine. Sounds really cool, but, or, you know, but the problem is you've got ball machines in your shed usually that are totally worthy of what we're doing. And so, and ball machines can be so cool. Like me, 60 years old, I can teach a high performance player, a college player, a pro player, or I can teach a 2.0, 3.0, 3.5. It doesn't matter what level they are because I can always provide them the right ball to get them into this identified decide, keeping them in an open skill environment. So, I guess the biggest thing here is nobody really taught me this. I had to go out and really research and do this, flying around the country, meeting some really extraordinary people, mentors, and some don't have that opportunity. And so I really wanted to make this video so to give those who don't have that opportunity a chance to really understand like really how people learn and how this thing all works out. If you have any questions, there's a real cool resource center at playmatetennis.com. If you go to playmatetennis.com and go to the resource center, go there and you know, there's articles up there. There's free assessment pages so you can assess your players. Also, you can email me at stan_oley@msn.com. I'd love to chat with you and help you out in anything you need.